Said he causes trouble when you let him in the room. He will never ever leave you if your heart is filled with gloom. So let the sun shine in, face it with a grin. Smilers never lose, and frowners never win. So let the sun shine in, face it with a grin. Open up your heart and let the sun shine in.
Talking to the People was the first of Halsworth's films to ever really get any kind of critical attention. It wasn't really unanimously good attention, but at least she was getting herself out there and making a bit of a name for herself and that kind of thing. I worked with her on that one, producing, because she couldn't find anybody to produce this film, and I thought, she's a young female director. If this goes well, we could make a lot of money out of it. And we didn't. We barely broke even, actually. But, that was a lesson for me, and a lesson for her. It's not necessarily something I'm not going to do in the future, but I'll keep in mind that when you get a young, unknown female director, that it's not necessarily going to do as well as you think it might.
It was a strange kind of experience working with her, because she didn't even want to have a makeup artist, I don't think, and then she was told she pretty much had to, just to get, people's faces looking right on the screen. Even if they're not really wearing any obvious makeup, you still need to have that that base, so the lights don't, cause a glare. And I think she resented me being there at all. We didn't really speak most of the time. There was one occasion where we bumped into each other, at lunch, and she definitely tried to make conversation, but she got talking about her films, and I just don't care. So we didn't really get off to the best start.
Well, she was like the David Bowie film, but less successful, really. She dabbled in everything: surrealism, art, films, video clips, mockumentaries, documentaries, sends up of everything from instructional videos to Midsummer Murders. Now that was strange. That was met with mixed reviews. I don't think anybody knew what she was really trying to do there.
I heard that he bats for the same side, sir. Troy, that's just not cricket. And then, so I was sitting out there for a bit, enjoying myself watching him, and then I got a bit bored, so I went inside to watch a bit of a special interest on Foxtel, of course. Guys Gone Wild. Fantastic. You should watch it, Troy. It's pretty fantastic, really. Barnaby, give it a shot.
Sergeant Troy.
My name's Mark.
Hi, nice
I'm
to
the
meet
gardener here.
I see. I'm here to investigate the murder of a Mr. Gerald Winkle. I believe you.
Yeah, I know Mr. Gerald. He was a pretty good looking guy, actually. Yeah.
I saw one of her films at the cinema, but I didn't know it was her. And then I was helping out on the set of Angel Dance with some of the young actors. Hollywood can be really tough on them. And I actually met her. And I remember someone saying, or commenting she was even there because she didn't work in Hollywood or with any of the big production companies. And I was like, who are you talking about? And they were like, that's Djuna. She was younger than I thought. In a way, but in a way she was kind of like just tired, like old people are tired. Like it was just almost too much. But I think she resigned herself to the pace of life, and other times she was pushing through good as anyone. Well, she displayed the usual signs of an anxiety disorder, but we don't like to use that terminology. It doesn't mean anything on its own. What is important is the way these symptoms manifest themselves and the way in which we deal with them. just using a divide and conquer method. The way that her brain works is not strictly mental illness. It's just a different way of processing that which we consider normal in society. And I think that it helped her produce the kind of works she produced.
I play a bit of bass guitar myself, and she would sing sometimes, so that wasn't really enough to like get a band going or anything. I think she always wanted to get more into music and stuff, but film just kind of happened for her, which is really, like, it's good because I know that's always what she wanted. And there was always people saying like, that's not going to happen. I mean, not straight out, but that's what they were thinking.
I'm not personally a fan. Too alternative for my taste. I'm more of a Tarantino, Scorsese, and you know, going back a few years, the Steven Spielberg, more of those kind of films. You know, found something you can really sink your teeth into. They keep you riveted without making you reassess your whole life. I did have a few laughs in her rather bizarre set of web videos. They were extremely low budget, but they were clever in a funny kind of a way.
Oh, hello Internet. You're with Genevieve DeGlute, and we are about to make over Robin Bismuth.
Hi.
Say hi, Robin.
How's it going?
Which is obviously what you do. And then I'm going to add a bit of color. I think purple will go really well with Candy's aura. I feel like I'm getting a vibe of purple. So, start with a little bit of cement. Beautiful. I'm so proud of me. I'm so proud. Who'd have thought I would be on the internet one day? And you too, Candy. I bet your parents didn't see this coming, huh?
I don't really see the point, but they were amusing. Didn't take up too much of my day.
I think that her earlier films were definitely exceeded expectations, but she never really used that to her advantage. For instance, I mean, one of her earliest films, it just didn't seem to make any sense. Nothing seemed to happen, but I think that's the effect she was going for. And she went off and she did a bunch of other stuff, like, and not even feature-length films, and that made it difficult to market them and to enter them into festivals because they just didn't reach the requirements. But for her own benefit, I think it was good to get that experience, go out there, do what you have to do, and encounter a bunch of difficulties and then, you know, find ways to get over them. I don't think she ever really found ways, though. I think that was the biggest problem, was that she'd do it anyway. You know, she'd make a mistake and she'd go, that didn't work. And rather than admit it openly, she would probably just do it again, just to prove it wasn't a mistake the first time.
I remember her wanting me to star in this strange kind of silent movie she was making. It didn't really sound like my kind of thing. Like, I'm just breaking into the industry and I don't want to kind of get typecast as necessarily someone who only wants to appear in independent films. Like, one day I would like to kind of branch out and do some more mainstream stuff just to kind of get my profile out there a little bit more. But I mean, it was really interesting working with her for sure. I've never worked with someone who gave the actors such a free rein and kind of just expected them to know what to do without necessarily being told. So I was really happy to work on the Hate Campus, because I did work with her a little bit on I Don't Know Richard. It didn't really work out because I was going to play a certain role and then they decided to actually cut that part, and then she ended up playing a lot of the roles herself anyway. But I was still kind of there on the set and I felt like I was involved in it in that way. But the Hate Campus, I actually auditioned for, and you know, having worked with her before, I think it probably helped, and I did get the role. The only thing is that, of course, the film kind of fell through. So I wanted to make something really nice. I was looking in Donna Hay Entertainment magazine, and I found this really nice recipe for mint and mustard roast lamb with caramelised onion, creamy potato stacks. And I thought that would be really nice, like a really nice way to say goodbye to this person who had a great life. So I'm going to make everybody some of these. They should be really good. I've been doing a lot of cooking recently. I broke a plate the other day, but that doesn't matter because we got plenty of plates. And what's one plate to somebody's life? I mean, he's died. It's so sad.
My granddaughter, you may have met. She comes around sometimes. I never know. She never tells me when she's coming around, and sometimes I have plans. Like bingo and watching the television. She's clearly been influenced by Rob Reiner if you've seen her later mockumentaries, such as I Don't Know Richard and About Crag.
This is Crag's cat. His name is Lefty, but Crag calls him Mr. Mr. and Crag get on like a house on fire. Mr. has what's known as red talk time, which involves a strange ritual that happens almost every night, particularly in the wintertime. This may or may not be a picture of Crag. He is known to do a bit of shopping. Ha 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 ha.
I got to know her quite well over those few years, and but it became difficult, after a while. Djuna found amusement in a lot of things, but she found a lot of melancholy in the world as well. And I found myself becoming pretty low, just being around her sometimes. And that's not really good for my job, of course.
I guess it was difficult to end the relationship with her because she, you felt like you were letting her down, even if it was for the greater good and whatever. I felt like I was taking something away from her, and she was just like a child, just standing there confused, why? She'd been cheated.
There was this one time I remember, I think it was the last time I saw her, and I was feeling really good and stuff, and she was struggling, you could tell. And I thought I was helping by being like, why can't you just be happy? And she was like, no, it doesn't work that way, I can't just turn it on. So I was trying to explain to her how I think you can, but she was just not interested. And finally she goes, you can't read Nietzsche and Heidegger and Lacan and be content. And she said, it's like the more educated you are, the less happy you can be. So, I'm happy all the time, so I was just like, well, I manage, how come I'm happy all the time? And she looks at me and she goes, because you don't know any better.
She never really wanted to work in Hollywood, and that always baffled me because to me that's the first place you go if you want to get into film. She wanted to avoid it like the plague. I think that was probably because she saw it as the exact opposite of what she really wanted to achieve, which was something different and something that hadn't been done before. And her Hollywood was just a machine producing the same thing over and over. And I can see why, someone who wants to break away from that would just not want to get involved. But I thought, I said to her, if you want to make it big in film, just go to Hollywood. You don't have to stay there. You can just make a couple of films, get a bit of a name for yourself, make some contacts, and then just keep going on with whatever it is you want to do. But she didn't want to do that.
The strange thing is she's considered a director when in fact she's actually acted in most of her movies. I don't know if many people know that. In fact, she's the only actor in that Bad Hair movie. I didn't really understand that one, but I've heard other critics describe it as an homage to surrealism. I can really take their word for that. I've never really been a big fan of surrealism or anything that is too challenging in terms of its ability to narrativize everyday events. To me, that is the point of film.
Even after that, I thought I'd give her a second go, and I decided to produce her next film, The Hate Campus, which never got finished. There was a lot of controversy surrounding that film. I think it was a very personal one for her, and I think that perhaps something going on in her life interfered with the creative process, and maybe she let her own personal life get in the way of the film, you know. I don't think she saw that as the biggest problem. I think she saw herself as a bit of an auteur, and that if the film didn't go well, then it was only her who had to suffer. But, you know, really, there's people like me who put out my money into it. I mean, if I don't get anything out of it, then that's no incentive for me to go and work with her again. And I think it's the same with a lot of other people. I know some of the actors weren't really that happy. It was never going to get off the ground. I don't know why they signed up for it, really. It was unrealistic kind of project. Very, obviously, you know, drawing a lot from her own experience and stuff, and I don't know how that would have translated to screen.
I got the job on The Hate Campus, which was good. It was my first kind of big film, but of course it never really got finished, and I don't think it ever will. If she does another one, I think my contract might roll over into that, so there's definitely an opportunity to work with her again, but I don't really mind either way because I didn't really understand her film. It's disappointing from my point of view because I feel like it's kind of a waste of time, but by the same token, I don't think it would have worked anyway. Like, I mean, I was playing the main character and even I was getting frustrated. I thought, I mean, I don't feel like I relate to this at all. And I don't think it would have been very critically acclaimed.
I was on the set of The Hate Campus for a few days when it was being shot. Obviously it never got finished, but you could kind of get an idea of what the film was going to be like based on the vibe on the set and, you know, also the few scenes that I did actually witness. I decided to do a preliminary review of it, and I've got that right here. I described it as a jumbled up vacation of indeterminable length into the psyche of Horsworth. One of those vacations where you may come home feeling tireder than when you left and wondering why you wasted your money. That was how I felt about The Hate Campus. It's probably a good thing it never got finished. I think it probably just would have been a waste of the audience's time.
One of the ones that I found funny, it was just this little 3-minute thing. I think it went around on the internet, went viral for about 5 minutes. Was this, it was just a video of her and her family watching this movie, Basket Case 2, which of course I've seen because that was big back in, you know, the early 90s. And it's just them watching this film. And at first I thought, what is this? You know, this is just nothing. And then I watched it a couple more times, it's only short. And it was actually quite refreshing that nothing really happens, you know. It's just them watching the movie, and you know, a movie of them watching the movie is the whole like postmodern thing, and it's quite enjoyable in its own little way. She did do some nicer, more ordinary kind of things as well, you know, with nice landscapes and you know, just like little travel documentaries about places she'd been, not for anyone else to watch really, for her own kind of viewing. I think that was the point, but you know, it's nice to be able to showcase that to people and show them what you can do, what you're capable of.
Her films were, you know, as good as anyone, like up there with some of the best, like the Von Trier's and Haneke, you know, Jarmusch. And she was good at what she did. You know, different, but sometimes people need shaking up. I found working in film to be really kind of meditative, and I feel very connected to this whole process of discovering yourself through the way in which you perform for an audience. But the funny thing is the audience isn't there, you know, the audience, they only see the film as a whole later. They don't see you in person. I've always found that quite interesting, but I feel like I'm performing for like the crew and the director and everybody on the set is. I think the weirdest thing is when you realise you're being filmed, and you always have to put on the best performance when you actually all stop. The time. And so, you know, even when you're in your trailer, look straight into the camera, your makeup done, it's still you never do, or a show because they're your audience, and I think the strangest thing is show them what realise you're being filmed, I suppose, and all of a sudden, that's all you can pay attention to. And you look straight down the barrel of the camera. Which of course you know you're not supposed to do even in kind of naturalist realist films, because you're supposed to be unaware that the camera's there, but when you not do, performing, and all of a sudden there's always somebody watching. Strange. Because nothing, like, the camera's not alive. I mean, it's not watching you, but I mean, performing something from you, or maybe it's the director and for the crew and the producer and everybody. That's no different to, and once it's the way you take it in the makeup room, it's there for everybody. When you're selling a little part of costumes, because all those people are the filmmakers, and they're the ones that they're all involved in the film, actors have anything, and they're the ones you want to show, you want to prove what you can do to them, because they're the best at their job. You know, it's one thing I do kind of feel like when I go to America and start doing Hollywood films. So I'm always performing, starting to have my face. It's always over the front of magazines, acting and filming and stuff. I feel like about, you know, showing every detail about my life, so exposed, posted all over, if the camera's on or not. I mean, if the camera's on, but I guess that's everyone nowadays. It's great, because you can watch it back, like, you know, the gossip section. But in real life, on film, all of that, maybe there's no camera, and you just I like to keep my life quite private. Exposing themselves through photographs. My relationships are my own, you know, no one else needs to know about them, and I don't want to have kind of the same thing, but it's a bit different. Eat too much lunch one day and have photographers be like, oh, that's baby bump, and the camera's just, because it keeps on rolling, keeps on going. You're like, I can't stop, and my own life under control, and like, I don't want that everybody has to know about it in case something goes wrong, and then they're there for me. You know, I don't need to be looked after by the public, even when you have nothing else to say, or you make a mistake and you want to start again, and it just keeps going, and nothing is forgotten. You feel obliged to keep on talking because it just keeps on going and staring at you like, is that all? You must have something else to say, and you keep on speaking, and I have nothing else to say.